Hi, YouTubers. What do you put your time into? So, do you ever think about that? Maybe I've already talked about this, but think about why it's so difficult to start a business in this world, right? You're trying to do two things, right? Well, three things. First, it is you're trying to figure out what it is you have to offer to the community, whatever that is, right? It could be growing potatoes. Maybe you're growing carrots. I don't know. Maybe you're just a motivational speaker and you're just giving people positivity and making sure that, hey, keep at it there, buddy. You can control this reality with your mind, which, we do. We kind of control everything that we're doing with our mind. Control yourself, right? I mean, thinking negatively about yourself, you're going to be much less productive. Probably pull yourself into attachments like things to pull you away from thinking negatively or whatever. Watch videos that hopefully like try and lift you up, right? I mean, half of YouTube is filled with videos trying to tell people, come on, get after it, or praying for each other and all this stuff. And, a lot of the stuff works as long as you believe it. It doesn't work if you don't believe it. You can give somebody all the positivity in the world. And, if they're just hell bent on being negative, then there's nothing you can do about it. So what are you putting your energy into, right? Is it putting energy into other people, or is it putting energy into just supporting yourself? Well, you kind of got to do both, right? Time and energy. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else, right? At the same time, there's the third entity out there, which is money, right? That is how our exchange for time. Totally subjective of time. Money is totally, it's non-linear and it's not irrespective of time. So there's this huge imbalance between money and energy, right? So currency, the idea of currency is that that's the current running, the energy running between people. But is money energy? Well, no, because it's irrespective of time. That's the illusion, is that money is currency when it's not. It is trying to measure the time that you spend between people, and it's not, right? So somebody could put all their time and energy in India into helping people, and the amount of money that they get will be less than somebody in the US, right? Now you could say, well, laws of abundance, all they got to do is sit there and meditate and raise their frequency, and all of a sudden they'll be rich. Is that true? I don't know. I mean, you could teach that all day long, but it has to come from somewhere, right? The money has to come from somewhere. And so you're always robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? Even if you win the lottery, somebody had to buy a lottery ticket. And so you're technically pulling money from all those people. Now they voluntarily gave you their money, sure. And it is what it is. The best thing I think you could possibly do is to follow your heart, because your heart is going to tell you how it is that you need to serve other people, and that will give you internal abundance. And then it won't matter what's out there, right? How much money you have or don't have. It'll always feel like you're doing what you need to do for other people. The question is making sure everybody gets that message, because that's the message that we should all be giving one another, is that, true abundance is how we feel about one another, right? And how we feel about ourselves. That's what abundance is. And that will always bring about good currency. Now, we can measure time. Do we have to measure time in dollars? Well, no. I mean, you think about it, the decentralized currency movement in the last, what is it, 10 years now? Bitcoin was like really popular 2008, right? It was when it kind of first came out, 2007, 2008. I remember back then, I remember when Bitcoin first came out, and I remember thinking, man, that's a really good idea, and I could have bought it. I remember thinking about just, let's throw $100 at Bitcoin, but back then, it was really difficult to do. And I thought about trying to do it, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. There's a couple people, there's stories of people that actually did that. You know, they bought Bitcoin in 2008 for, if you threw $100 at Bitcoin in 2008, you know, by 2015, you're a multimillionaire. I think it ended up being like, I don't know. I saw an article of somebody that did that. I think $200, they were like $200 million in like 8 years or something. Virtual currency that has no relative. The only thing that's relative about it was its demand rate. So it was so, that's why it went up so fast, right? Because it was so restricted that there was so little of it available that the demand for it all of a sudden became high, and the price went through the roof, comparatively speaking. So what is it that we have, talking about that, what is it that we have that is always in demand, but not necessarily currency, right? Your time is always in demand. Has to be. And the people's time who's always in demand are people that take care of our basic needs. Farmers, construction workers, people that build things, and people that take care of the power, right? Utilities. Those things are always going to be in demand. So if you could find a way to connect everybody like that and directly to time instead of currency, wouldn't that be a lot more balanced? I mean, you can measure time, and actually my time making this video, how much time does it take? You can even donate time, right? I mean, you're actually donating your time every time you watch something to somebody. Google actually, uses that system because it realizes that you can advertise to people if they're spending their time watching a video, right? Because, I mean, that's how people make money on YouTube. You say, if somebody's watching your videos for, like, if you got 1 million views on a video, then that time can be measured, and so it's going to attract people to advertise on that channel because, right, everybody's watching it. 1 million people. It's an advertising machine. Everything's about time and energy. So how do we balance time? If money doesn't balance time, then what does? Well, time in and of itself. So why aren't we trading time instead of trading money? It's a good question. The reason behind that is because of the old, right? It started with the trade system. When, let's say, I made a chair, and then somebody else brought their, say somebody made a table, and we're going to trade. I'm taking it to a trade. And I look at this person's table and it's like, wow, that's a really beautiful table. How long did it take you to make that? Oh, it took me 20 hours to build this table, right? And I could say, oh, wow. Well, it took me 30 hours to build this chair. And they look at my chair and they go, but your chair looks like crap. Right? Not a very beautiful chair. Maybe my chair doesn't look too good. I'm not a very good chair builder. And so you can argue that not everybody's time is just as valuable as everybody else's time, depending on what they're doing. For example, right, I mean, I think I talked about this in my last video. Maybe I didn't. An apprentice electrician obviously doesn't, their time probably isn't as valuable as a master electrician just because maybe they need somebody else's time to help them. But the reality is all of us are learning and growing. And this is something that I've understood very recently, is that it doesn't really matter how much knowledge you have. You're always trying to become a better conductor at the moment when you're interacting with somebody. I experience this all the time. If I'm stewing my own stuff, if I'm just sitting in the house stewing my own stuff, I can get downloads and get directed messages to you guys that where I become a conductor for you. However, it's much easier if I'm directly interacting with you because then it feels like I'm directly feeding whatever it is that you need. And you are probably, if you can be conscious of it or unconscious of it, you're filling my need as well. And all we're doing ever really is trading time, right? I can charge you money for my time, but it's so subjective. I mean, I could charge you whatever. I could charge you $5. I could charge you $1,000. I could charge you $1 billion. It's all subjective, right? It doesn't mean anything. And it really doesn't even matter how much the other person has in money, because all of that money was subjective on somebody else's time as well, right? So it's like, what are we doing? Why are we measuring abundance in something that's so subjective when the only thing that really ever matters is the time that we spend together? I don't know. Questions about this reality. Always question everything. I've asked myself so many times, and this morning I woke up and I just sat there and just monitored my thoughts for like an hour and a half. It was a long time. And I was thinking about the project that I'm working on. I was thinking about my last book that I wrote. I'm thinking about this book that I'm writing. And I thought, what are we doing, right? For one thing, you're never going to find any more meaning than the time that you share with the people around you. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I've thought about just leaving the house and just traveling and just meeting people and just bagging any kind of project, right? Just keep writing. Just explore. It doesn't matter. You can teach people that time is, not directed to money, but unless you give somebody a product to help balance that, then it doesn't feel like I'm doing my job. So it feels like you still have to do something, because if you ignore what you're given, and if you're given something to serve the people around you and you ignore that, now you're not listening to it. It's almost like you're not doing what you're told. And if there's anything that I've learned in this life is that you just do what you're asked, because that's all any of us are ever asked to do, right? It's just to do what we're asked to do. If somebody comes to you and asks you for something, do what you can to provide for it. That's all we're ever asked. And that's how we spend our time, is fulfilling the needs of the body. You can ask me anything, and if I can give it to you, then I will. Not only that, but if you ask me for something, more than likely the universe will make it happen so that I can be an agent of fulfilling that for you. At the same time, I can ask and say, what is it that I have to offer for these people, or and then if it's given to me, then that's something that I should probably try and do, right? It's all about the health of your heart. Because if somebody comes to you and asks you for something and you refuse, that's not going to cause you harm or anybody else harm, especially if it's just money, because money isn't respective of time, whether you realize it or not. And you don't do that, then what's your heart health like? How does your heart feel? So many needs that aren't being met. Anyway, actually everyone's needs are being met, whether we realize it or not. And a lot of times we're bringing justice to our own lives because we are just not seeing the bigger picture. Ask and you shall receive. And that goes both ways. So I love you guys. I just wanted to put on a little video here. Think about it. Think about how you interact with the people around you and do your best to try and, ground negative energy. And when somebody asks you to do something, just do it. And then you don't even need, sometimes they don't even need to ask. It's like, if you see a need, then it's okay to fill that role if you decide to. That's what leaders do, right? Is when you feel a need and you feel that there's a need for something, then just do it. A leader, and this is something that I have learned about, is a leader is somebody that fills a need without being asked to fill a need. Everybody else usually feels a need because they're asked. And if you're trying to control the actions of others just to sell something, then you're not filling a need, right? You're just doing it for money. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next one.